Welcome to Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and a dash of hope collide nightly like a Trevor Story strikeout. We cover every loss, every meltdown, and yes, even the rare win, with brutally honest takes and zero front office fluff. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com or risk being left out in the cold like a home game in April. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I am your host tonight, Jim Dalfino, founder, producer, and apparently the only guy in New England dumb enough to still think that the hot stove means something other than reheating the same leftovers from last year's rebuild. Yeah, that's right. I started this show to talk Red Sox baseball, but at this point, I feel like I'm running a missing persons podcast about our offseason moves. If you've seen a frontline starter or any trace of a legitimate power bat, please contact Craig Breslow immediately. The only other thing heating up around here is my laptop fan from refreshing MLB trade rumors every 5 minutes. Joining me tonight, as always, is the man with more opinions than John Henry has excuses, Nick Face. Nick's been in full midseason form since October. He's yelling on X about how the Sox need to spend big, like he's personally Venmoing John Henry his rent money. You know it's bad when your hot stove tweets come in all caps locks and a side of blood pressure medication. Joining us later on the show should be Nick Diamond, our Florida correspondent, because when I think baseball authority, I think palm trees and humidity. Nick's down there breaking down pitch data and free agent fits like he's running a hedge fund for war stats. The guy's got a spreadsheet for everything: payroll flexibility, swing paths, even which Duncan has the best coffee to donut ratio per OPS plus. If Breslow had half his analytics, we'd have Shohei Ohtani and a parade by now. So grab your hot cocoa, Sox Nation, because tonight's stove isn't hot, it's barely lukewarm. We'll be diving into all the latest rumors, non-rumors, and whatever imaginary trade proposals Red Sox Twitter's cooking up at 3 a.m. Let's get into it. So, Nick, we're going to do it a little bit different tonight. We're going to just kind of go right into it with different topics. So the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is the elephant in the room, which is the Trevor Story opt-in. Looks like he hit the all stay thanks button, exercising his player option for 26 and 27, locking in a cool $50 million after a 25 season where he finally looked, like an actual baseball player again. 25 home runs, 96 RBIs, and 160 games played, which is about 100 more than we've seen since he got here. He said he's staying because he loves the organization and has unfinished business. Translation: I finally remembered how to hit, and I'm not risking that payday anywhere else. But hey, it's good news. The infield won't look like a game of musical chairs next season. Story will be at short. Maris slowly getting his learner's permit, and Breslow can now focus on the important stuff like finding pitching and doesn't make us want to drink battery acid. The bottom line: Story stays, the Sox save face, and for once, a Red Sox shortstop isn't packing his bags. Miracles do happen. What do you think, Nick?
First off, I just want to say happy Vets Day to all those that have served our country and everything. Um, it's goes without saying how much our family and others around here appreciate all that you've done for us to be able to have the freedom to have this lovely podcast and talk and do all that. Just kudos to all of you for all your service and thank you.
Absolutely.
On the story front, I was wishy-washy. I don't like to be like that when the off season was about to hit. I kept going back and forth. Do I want him to opt in? Do I want him to opt out? Because it has some pros and cons to it. There was the big money attachment to it. There was the whole risk of losing some stability if he goes and tests the market. And there's the whole regression of sorts going down at shortstop. It was not such a great defensive season for Story over at short. Serviceable, yes. But especially as the second half was going on, we were starting to get a little concerned about Story's throws, a little bit of the range, a little bit of just unknown territory for him. He ended up opting in last week. I'm okay with it, I have to say. And the reason why I'm okay with it is because You have so many unanswered questions right now with what you have to do with this offseason. If it's 2 years and 50 something million, it's not my money. It's John Henry's yacht fund. Keep dipping into it. The thing that irritates me a little bit is that Breslow has been, I think, a little too pushy with pushing the narrative for the offseason here a little bit and defining that Story is his shortstop going into 2026. We walked this tightrope last offseason with the whole Devers saga, and then Bregman signs. And then where's Bregman going to play? Is he at second? Is he at third? Oh, we can't disrupt Devers. We can't make him all upset and move him out of there. So it's a little different, the tone that I've seen so far with this. I don't love the fact that he just flat out came and said, Trevor Story is my shortstop heading in. Personally, I would have just said, we're glad to have Trevor Story back. He's here to play, and we're going to look forward to the offseason. That way, I'm not putting words in my mouth and then something happens within the offseason, and then you have to take those words back, and now
Yeah.
Story's angry, and now Story wants to get out of here, and then you have another disaster on your hands. So that's really where I'm at with this whole thing with him. I'm happy he's here, but I don't like what Craig Breslow has done initially here with Story. I think, Jim, I don't like to speak for other people, but I think I know what you feel on this. I think you would rather him at second base.
Yeah, there's no question I'd
I
rather
am too.
there's no question I'd rather have him at second base for a couple reasons. Number one, second base has been a revolving door for quite a number of years. I mean, frankly, ever since Pedroia got injured. And we need some stability there. The possibility of looking on the free agent market for a guy like, Bo Bichette, or possibly making a trade, or even just having Marcelo Mayer being your shortstop of the future, is questionable. But nowadays, with Story being a little bit older, I think he would be a guy that would make second base a stronger position for him defensively, and you would be getting more offense out of that position.
Yeah, I am in the same predicament here. And I think a lot of the reasons, again, why this came out like it did is because you brought him up. Marcelo Meyer is a massive mystery and question mark on what the heck is going to happen with him. I don't think he has trade value right now. I don't. And I think the Red Sox are going to have to get this guy right to play a full season. Breslow came out today and pretty much challenged Marcelo Meyer with some words of wisdom, if you want to put it, and said, dude's got to get in the weight room, got to bulk up, got to get healthy and play a full season. Those were basically the three statements that were made all there. I agree wholeheartedly here with Breslow. I'm sick and tired of it. I mean, I know he's young. I know he's come up and he's had some nicky knack things go on in his career, but stay on the field. Stay on the field. Stay healthy. That is the number one thing I want to see out of Marcelo Meyer going into 2026, because you're going into this offseason. I don't know if I can put him as one of my starters at third or at second base. I don't know if I can. So I got to make sure I have enough depth to make sure if Marcelo Meyer gets hurt or he's not ready come spring training and opening day, I have another solution. It's very nerve-wracking on what you have to deal with him and some of these other guys. We'll get into it, I'm sure. But at least those two are our starting out points here with figuring out the offseason.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of not to belabor the point, but putting Story at second base, I think is going to be best for him long term, and also to again, just improving the offensive output from that position. I mean, you can look back and look at the right, look at the tape. Since Pedroia has been gone, the output from offense at second base has been abominable. I mean, it's just been
The
terrible.
best player you had at second base was Brock Holt. And
Yeah.
I'm not knocking Brock Holt. I don't wanna do that. Brock Holt was nothing but a spark plug and super utility, kinda guy that the Red Sox loved, and I appreciate 100% on what he did for the team.
And he
But
hit
you
for
have
the
not
cycle.
had exactly. Then in the game was it game 4,
Yeah.
2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But that's the problem that you've had. I mean, they've tried to solve it with, I remember Ian Kinsler when he came for 2018, and he did absolutely nothing. I was very excited about that move that was made from the deadline. I
Yep.
give I gave Dombrowski all the credit in the world from that move because it was a veteran type guy, been there, done that,
And
didn't really do
Nunez.
much of anything. Yeah,
And
and
Nunez
Eduardo
too,
Nunez,
you know?
and Nunez was
I liked
he had
him.
his moments. Yeah,
Yeah.
he had his moments. He was very serviceable.
Yep.
But again, you haven't had that dirt doggy, Pedroia-like guy at that position. And it's interesting because we did go a little bit of time where we had um, back in the 90s, there was a Jose Offerman type. The Red Sox don't even have an Jose Offerman type right now.
No.
You had I loved Mark Loretta when he was here for 2005. I did. And they felt high enough on Pedroia that they said we're all set with without Mark Loretta. And of course, your Bellhorn, Mark Bellhorn, who could ever forget him? So, I mean, you had something that was there. Sorry, I'll mention Pokey Reese with the glove too, but you
Mhm.
haven't had any of that. Even those names I'm rattling off here, you can't do that right now. You just can't.
No, and for as nice and serviceable as Romy Gonzalez has been, I mean, let's face it, he really is a backup guy. He's not a guy that's gonna be an everyday second baseman. So, we'll see how that goes. Next point that I wanted to bring up was the Red Sox removing several players all at once from the 60-day IL. It's a miracle, Nick, how everybody
Uh,
can get healthy on the same day. So here's the talking point. The Red Sox cleaned out the medical wing, 9 guys officially off the 60-day injured list. It's like spring cleaning, but instead of dusting shelves, they're shaking off MRIs. Welcome back, Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck, Josh Winkowski, Sandoval, Hunter
mm,
Dobbins,
mhm,
Grissom, Mayer, and of course, your favorite player of mine, Tristan Casas. Because basically everyone who's been held together with duct tape since June is now off the IL. And in classic Red Sox fashion, the celebration lasted about 3 seconds before they dumped Luis Guerrero, who got DFA'd faster than you can say roster crunch.
mm.
So the Sox are finally healthy or pretending to be, and it looks like the IL now is emptier than Fenway in the 8th inning of a rain delay. Nick, what do you think? What do you make of all this? Why is everybody healthy all at once, or is it just rearranging the deck chairs?
The Titanic, they just needed to rearrange the deck chairs to get ready for the offseason because they don't wanna go into an offseason where there's teams that might be interested, heaven forbid, in a Tristan Casas. Wouldn't that be a miracle? Or a
Mhm.
team that's, "Oh, we're gonna take a flyer on Tanner Houck. That sounds great." Or, "Oh, I heard Cutter Crawford's off the 60-day. Why don't we package him and put him there?" It's just a game of shuffling cards here to make sure that they're prepared and ready to go for the off season that's here. Um, they should ideally be at the waste management dump, some of them.
I
I'm not
agree.
gonna name names because that's too cruel. We don't wanna be that cruel, but yeah, there's some that should be permanently left for the recycle bin outside my house.
Totally agree. Moving on to
I
our
I
next. Go ahead.
if they're recyclable.
If they're recyclable. Next
Oh,
talking point.
speaking of which,
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, go ahead.
Oh,
I just
yeah,
saw it come up.
oh,
That's why I
gotcha.
said,
All right.
speaking of which,
The segue. Jarren Duran's contract. So here's the deal. The Red Sox gave Jarren Duran $7.7 million for next year
Bulls.
instead of picking up the $8 million option, which sounds dumb at first, right? Like, why not just hit yes on the $8 million and call it a day? Here's the trick. By doing this one New Year deal, they reset his salary base lower, which means his future raises through arbitration will now be based on the 7.7 million instead of 8 million. You heard that right. Over the next 3 years, it could save the team a cool million. It's basically Breslow saying, "Hey Jared, let's call it 7.7 now and we'll pretend we're both happy." Duran's camp obviously agreed because after the 25 season, he wasn't winning that $8 million number in arbitration. And it looks like the old deal had some weird clauses as well. Bonuses if he got MVP votes, which he didn't, and something about the option disappearing if he got traded. So the bottom line is the Sox save some cash now and later. Duran avoids a messy arbitration hearing, and everyone gets to say they agreed instead of argued. Basically, Breslow used a Bed Bath and Beyond coupon on his left fielder. Nick,
Or
your thoughts on this?
or Breslow told Duran, "F him."
Yeah, I mean that's Duran's number one statement. But herein lies the biggest thing. I think you wanna try to keep it as low as possible if you're gonna use them as a bargaining trade chip. It only makes sense, and I guess every little dollar counts even in Major League Baseball, where you can use him as a trade chip at a lower potential arbitration number when he is coming up in 26 and 27 for those arbitration years.
I have to ask you, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit in the past week with the offseason here. Do you really think that there are teams interested in Jarren Duran in a trade? Do you really think there are? And I hope other teams aren't watching this because you'll understand our feelings from it. But I wanna ask that question.
I think the answer is yes, because he is a major league, um, obviously a major league player. He can play. He has the ability to go 150 games. He is gonna put up numbers that other teams may need in their lineup that they don't currently have. It's just a situation for us, Nick, in my opinion, that he's worn out his welcome, and a lot of it has to do with Roman Anthony because at the end of the day, you cannot argue with the fact that either he or Abreu has to be moved. And if you don't move either one of them, then you have to move Yoshida or DFA him because your $150 million rookie needs a position. And if it's not going to be in the outfield and it's not going to be the DH, where the hell is it going to be? So he looks like he's locked in for left field, in the short and long term. But here's the other part of it too. The Red Sox basically took Jarren Duran's leadoff spot away from him and put him and
Deservingly.
correct. But here's the other problem that I have. Jarren Duran doesn't really fit on the team anymore, both offensively and defensively. And here's why. He was scattered around that lineup in 2025 in various areas. And I
'Cause he
just don't
can't
s
hit.
and I just don't see a position for him in that lineup that excels him. The only spot that really gave him any kind of excel or credibility was the leadoff spot for the simple fact that if he got on base, he could steal with an open second base, or with anybody not on base, he could kind of, turn a single into a double. Here's the
But
thing though.
that's our problem.
That
I
is the
think that
problem. That's exactly the
he
problem
can't do that. You can't
because
even put a blast because he can't even get on.
yeah. And in 2025, I think you saw a different Jarren Duran. You saw
Oh,
a guy that was not trying to turn doubles from singles. There were many times there were ground balls to left field, center field, and he just went full speed past first base and just came into second base and made it. It was almost like a video game. And he shied away from a lot of that in 2025. In fact, his stolen base numbers, and we talked about this in a previous episode, went way down in the second half. And a lot of people want to come at
surprise.
me and say that he doesn't have his skills are declining. And I try to come at me with some proof that his skills are not declining because the numbers don't lie.
You want a bold take right now? Here's my bold take of the night. Jarren Duran is not good enough to be a major league player anymore. That's my take tonight. You need to move on quickly from him because and I feel bad. This is me feeling bad. Here's the other side of it, because it's upstairs here with him. And I don't think up here is gonna click to show that continuous 2024-ish Duran that got him to the All-Star game. I think that was a one and done, a swan song, if you wanna put it that way. He does not fit here. You have got to get him out of here. If he is still here on opening day, we aren't going anywhere. We aren't. We are not a playoff team. We will not be in we're just not. We can't go through it again. He's a lost cause, and he needs to get out of Boston. He has to, for his own mental health. I'm thinking of his mental health right now. Mentally, you need to go to Pittsburgh or Tampa or Detroit, Kansas City, one of those teams. And maybe Kansas City is a team that might be looking because they are in need of some outfield options. I'll take Vinny Pasquantino,
Yeah.
Pasquantino 100% on that. Package in some other guys. I'll even throw in Toley or something like that.
The
But
problem
you
with
gotta get him out of here. You got to.
one of the biggest issues with Jarren Duran in 2025 is he didn't read the game. He didn't play to the actual game that was being played in front of him. He tries to jack everything in counts that require just contact. He needs to keep the ball on the ground and use his speed. He doesn't do anything. There was a movie, everyone knows it, Major League, where, Wesley Snipes kept trying to hit the ball hard, and the manager came over to him and he says, "With your speed, you need to hit everything on the ground." Everybody knows it. I'm not gonna go into it any longer than that. But that's a typical Jarren Duran situation. And he's
Perfect.
and the point of the matter is, and where I'm going with this is that he doesn't read the game enough to understand where it can put him in a position to excel. He's just too worried about jacking everything. And here's what I have concerns with, almost to the point where you were talking about. 26 and 27 now, as he gets closer to that free agency, I think he's gonna be compelled to try harder
Mhm,
in a negative way. He's gonna try too hard,
mhm.
and it's gonna backfire, and it means it's gonna be a continuation of a decline of, on base percentage, hits, home runs, everything along the line is gonna go down because he's gonna be trying too hard, and it's not gonna be successful for him.
If the Red Sox were to work with him and have a therapist on hand with him in the dugout to get him right to be the player that he hopefully could be, then it would work. But he's too stubborn in his own right to do anything like that and get the help that's needed. So getting out of a pressure situation here that's in Boston is within the best interest. It just is. I've moved on. It's time for fans to move on and hope for the best for him in another environment because that's what's most healthy for him.
Next talking point is a little bit more on Alex Bregman. So, as we all know, Alex Bregman opts out, and the Phillies looks like they might be looming or drooling. The Red Sox $120 million third baseman Alex Bregman has officially exercised his opt out clause, skipping town for now, like someone who just realized Fenway's third baseline leads right straight to Philadelphia. According to reports, the Phillies are potentially eyeing him amid their Alec Bohm crisis, because, of course, the Phillies can't see a shiny object without throwing money at it. Boston, meanwhile, looks like it's the ex who's totally fine with moving on, but still refreshing MLB trade rumors every 20 minutes. Bregman had a resurgent 2025, power, consistency, and actual defense. What a concept. So losing him would create a crater in the infield, roughly the size of John Henry's offseason excuses. Rumor has it Craig Breslow wants him back, but only at the right price. That translates into they'll offer him something that barely covers his dry cleaning and then act shocked when he signs elsewhere. Bregman opting out is less than a breakup and more of let's see other teams' situation. If Philly backs up the Brinks truck, and Boston better have a plan B that isn't pray Marcelo Mayer can play third base. I like Bregman. I do, but a guy that's hitting 187 down the stretch and looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than Fenway in September. I'm done. At this point, I'm done with Bregman. And if the Red Sox want to bring him back, let's not pretend that we're signing 2019 Bregman. We're re-signing the maybe he'll remember how to hit next year version. And knowing this front office, they'll wait too long to lowball him, and it'll be all about financial flexibility. Nick, my question to you: A, do you want Bregman back? And B, are we better without him?
No, I do not want Alex Bregman back. I've seen what he is, and I understand now why the Astros opted not to bring him back and give him the money. If Bregman is out there searching for a 4 or 5-year deal and the Red Sox are gonna be a sucker to go and do that, shame on them. I think there's better ways that you can spend money to help this club. This club needs help at second, first base, figuring out what you're gonna do as your number 2 starter, anchoring that whole thing, figuring out. I know Breslow came out and said that Connor Wong is his backup catcher for next season. I don't feel very good about that. I'd like to see what you can do for that whole position there. Just make your team better instead of locking your money into a guy that broke down and you kind of already know what he is. The only reason Dave Dombrowski is interested in Alex Bregman, you mark my words on this, is because he needs a backup in case Kyle Schwarber does come back to Boston. That's the only reason he's interested in Bregman. 100%. He's trying to cover all of his bases here. I think Kyle Schwarber, if the price is right, will come back here to Boston. Now, that might be why Breslow has come out and said he has a lot of work to do with the trade market and figuring out positions and all that. That might be the smokescreen to that. So I think that that's more on the lines of why Dombrowski is looking at a Bregman, and I'm sure he'd be looking at a Bregman, understanding that he's a guy that's breaking down a little bit more than not and is kind of on the back nine, not the front nine of his career.
Well, the other thing is too, Nick, I mean, if you are a general manager of any one of these teams, including Boston, you have to look at Alex Bregman in a bubble and you have to say, here's a guy that signed a 3-year deal for 120 million, 40 million a year with half of it deferred. He had opt-outs after year 1 and year 2. He decided to elect to go for that opt-out. And that tells me that he's looking for a long-term deal, and it may be the money, and it may be the years because he just wants to be in one place for a long period of time. But what are you getting as a general manager with Alex Bregman? You're getting a guy that's now 2 years older than what his contract started at, because he was 29, now he's gonna be 31, so you're getting the older version of Alex Bregman, you're not getting a younger version. You're seeing a guy that got injured with a very similar quad injury that he had years ago, and, he lost a lot of playing time during this opt-out contract season. And you're looking at a guy who's obviously his intangibles are going to get worse, not better as he ages. He's not a fine wine here. And so, do you really want to go out and give him that kind of long term deal? Because if you did, if you're a GM that looks at him and says, yeah, he's worth a long term deal, then why didn't you do it last year? What?
Exactly.
And
Great
that
point.
Yeah, and that's my biggest sticking point here. If he's worth it now, why wasn't he worth it then? Because what did he prove to you in 2025 that makes you as a general manager say to yourself,
Nothing.
"Oh, yeah, I'm convinced now that Alex Bregman's worth $150 million." There's nothing in my mind that says that, and I don't care if it's Craig Breslow, I don't care if it's, the general manager of the Oakland A's. Nothing is going to say to me, I'm going to give you that kind of long term commitment. So either he wanted to be here or he didn't want to be here. That's a question. It still bothers me, Nick, that the fact that all this circus happened and it wound up getting rid of our perennial 30 home run guy endeavors. And I don't know who the bad guy was here. You know who the bad guy is? I'll tell you who the bad guy is. The bad guy is the Boston Red Sox fans because we're the ones that are going to lose out on the fact that
Mhm.
we had a guy that was gonna hit us 30 home runs every year and be in a middle cornerstone lock in that
Yep.
lineup every single year.
And
And
seemed
when
happy here before
fine,
the whole Bregman thing went down.
right,
Yes.
and you know what? We all know he was not gonna be the third baseman the entire 10 years. We know that Yoshida had a couple years left, and he would have probably been into that DH position at that point. Or maybe if things went the better route, he would have been the first baseman. But you know what? There's a part of me that wants to believe that Rafi Devers thought of himself as, the face of this franchise. And then you're going to go in and you're going to basically slaughter him to death with all these things. And we know how the Red Sox work. They absolutely destroy everybody that walks out of this town. One after another. They did it with Francona. They did it with Theo. They've done it with Clemens. They've done it with Mo Vaughn. I mean, the list goes on and on how they just blackball everybody that leaves here. So I have absolutely no faith to believe that it's 100% Rafi Devers' fault. But at the end of the day, again, the person that's suffering is the Red Sox fan because we don't have that guy. And if you mean to tell me that we got 1 year of this little twerp for the fact that we lost our 30 home run perennial guy, we should be a lot more pissed off than we are now.
I echo the same statement from that because I remember when the whole thing was going down, in the back of my mind, I said, there's something else that's going on here. Devers is not happy about this whole thing. Why aren't they just putting Bregman over to second? We were talking about this back in March on when things were going down. And how they handled the whole thing for a PR standpoint between Breslow, Kennedy, Henry, they should all be ashamed of themselves. They should be. They need a class in PR 101 on how to handle, how to operate your company because it was disgusting on what went down. If that was me from my businesses and I handled that with one of my employees from something, I'm just going to walk myself out the door and not come back because that just can't happen. That can't happen. My face of my team, and you wanna do that to your organization to make them worse? No, thanks. I have a sit down. I tell him beforehand, I wanna make my team better going into this offseason. There's a real chance that we could get Alex Bregman to help bolster the lineup, bolster the defense, and make us better. How do you feel about it? It's fine if he doesn't want to agree with it, but say, "Look, we understand you're our core player. You're the face of our club. We want to make sure you're happy. So we're going to try our best to put him at another position, keep you at DH or something, and keep everybody merry and happy." And they elected not to do that. They elected to. Henry is so lucky the Giants took on that entire money and contract. I'm still waiting for that money to be replenished for this team to be better. Because right now, again, I joke about it all the time. It's really not a joke. That's his yacht fund. He's already got another yacht out in Liverpool land. It's out there. That's where that money goes.
The
That's
other
where it is.
The other part about this, 2 parts. First, let me say this too. There was the potential of a better deal in terms of, the capital coming back to the Boston Red Sox.
Correct.
I think Marcelo Ozuna from the, Braves was involved in potential talks in that, and that's a guy that would have fulfilled at least some of that power that you're losing.
He, he,
You
he would
got
have given you
Jack
something.
Nick, you got Jack Squat for Rafael Devers. Jack
Yeah.
Squat. And the only guy that you got that maybe of something, which was a flyer, was the minor leaguer Tibbs, who was a number 1 draft pick, and you let him go for a box of rocks, and so I just
That was
don't understand.
Dustin May.
Yeah, a box of rocks, and so that's why it's so bizarre, and the other part about this too, and then we'll move on, is the optics about this too. When you're a free agent and you're gonna look to sign here, I know Garrett Crochet signed an extension and everything is kumbaya, but outside of him, you're a free agent that's gonna look at the Boston Red Sox and say, "This is an organization that, signs guys to long-term deals and then flips them out of here, or they sign these one-year deals. They penny pinch or they don't make any commitment." It's like dating the girl for 10 years and you can't give her a ring. That's how it seems.
It's a great example. Great example. The one thing I want to mention on this whole Bregman thing from this offseason versus last, his whole situation, he didn't sign until March during spring training. he may go unsigned. He may go unsigned, Jim. And there might have to be him going to an extended spring training and desperately having to sign later into April or something like that for a team. It may just happen that way.
Right.
Remember, this is not like the JD Martinez situation from 2018 where the Red Sox got him later in the game and played it out and everything. The Red Sox are trying to make Bregman be desperate. I don't know if it's much more Bregman, but they're trying to make Scott Boras say, "You imbecile, you fool, you moron. You just told your client to opt out after the season that he just did? Sure, great first half. What was it 299 average? Looked like a perennial MVP caliber type guy. And then it all went downhill when he got hurt. But case in point to what you said earlier, he didn't prove anything. He proved he got worse. So any team that was interested in him, I think the interest is less and less right now for him than it ever could have been. He may have to come back at a 1-year deal at an even lower price value than what the Red Sox gave him last season.
I think there's no question on that. And for anybody on Red Sox Twitter is going to say, well, he was hurt. Don't you understand that he'll be happy and healthy in spring training? But you know what? When you're a team that's going to offer or want to offer him $150 million, it's not going to happen because they're going to be
It's not gonna happen.
they're going to be gun shy on a guy like that. And to your point, Nick, I think it's very possible that a team is going to offer him a 1-year pillow contract or a 2-year, which he's going to be in no better shape than with the $80 million that he left on the table here. So I have a really strong feeling that it's going to backfire on Alex Bregman. Bottom line, because
100%.
and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Moving right along,
Boris.
Kyle Schwarber. The reunion nobody asked for, but everyone secretly expects. 5 years, 135 million for a guy who hits nukes, strikes out 200 times, and feels like he's wearing flippers. Love the power, hate the defense, and there's zero chance he survives the monster without at least one collision in the scoreboard. But sure, if you want to lead the league in dingers and defensive errors, Schwarber's your guy. My question is he the right fit here? And is it everyone just wants him to be the right fit here? In other words, the story is great, Nick, but is the story great?
Kyle from Waltham.
Right,
Everybody loves him,
right.
but he doesn't fit here.
That's
I'm
the problem.
sorry. I'm sorry, folks. Don't hate me. I just come at it as I see. He doesn't fit. There's too many other holes that this team has to lock in a 33. Is he 33 or 34?
I think 33.
33. 33-year-old DH for a what, 3 or 4-year deal? If they weren't as log jammed as they were right now, I'd say fine. I loved it when he was here in 2021. That was such a great addition at the deadline. He fit the Red Sox like a glove. He did. He doesn't really play anything outside of a little bit of the outfield. Red Sox don't really need any of that. First base, he hasn't played any first base since he came to the team in 2021. And we all know that was just not a friendly place for him right there. I just don't think it happens. I think that Philly's going to do everything it takes to keep him, especially with Bryce Harper lobbying the front office and Dombrowski to bring him back. I just don't think the Phillies are going to let him go. But if they do, that's where Bregman ties in with Dombrowski being interested. Say Dombrowski ends up saying, you know what, we're going to go with Bregman as our guy, and they figure out whatever they're going to do with him. Well, the number 2 spot is Boston, but it's bearing moves that Breslow would have to make. They would have to figure out a way to probably just release Masataka Yoshida because I don't think there's any other team that wants him. They could do the Rusney Castillo treatment with him and just say, we're going to put you on waivers. You're going down to AAA. Very, very well could happen. I don't hold it past them. But then you have to figure out, okay, are we keeping Willie Abreu? We have the whole Duran saga. Roman Anthony's got to play a spot. Cedane Rafaela's in center field. There's a lot of moving pieces if Kyle Schwarber does not end up going back to Philly. I don't see any other teams banging on the door for Schwarber. I really don't think that he would go to the Yankees. I think that there's some hatred towards wanting to ever deal with them. So that gives me a little peace of mind knowing that it's gonna come down to the Phillies or the Red Sox, but I'm 98% sure he's going back to Philly.
So here's the other thing about Schwarber. Again, the optics are great. He fits in here. Kyle from Waltham. It was a great story the second half of 21. Um, and maybe in a different decade or a different time frame, Nick, things would be right with him being here. The problem with the 2026 Red Sox, and you brought it up, there's just not the fit. If you signed him, I'm just make the numbers simple. Let's say you gave him $150 million, and he's going to be your DH. That means you got to get rid of Yoshida, which you said. And I just don't see the Red Sox dumping the Yoshida contract just to replace him with Schwarber, because basically what you're saying to me now is we're going to pay 200 million for
Right.
Schwarber because you're getting rid of Yoshida. And it's not a position of, I don't want to say it's not a position of need, but the Red Sox have bigger issues elsewhere on the diamond, that this is more of a luxury than it is a necessity.
Mhm.
Their necessities right now are a number 2 starter, another bullpen piece, who's playing first, who's playing second, who's playing third, who's playing in the outfield. They've got way too many questions that Schwarber is so low on that list. I just don't think it comes to fruition. And frankly, I'd rather spend that same money on the next guy that we're going to talk about, which is Pete
Yeah.
Alonso,
Yep.
the polar bear himself. Now, this is a rumor I can get behind. So Alonso, 38 home runs, 126 RBIs, a 272 average. It's an actual bat, not a potential upside project. Put him in Fenway, and the Green Monster would need therapy by June. Half of his
Mhm.
doubles would dent the wall so bad, its starting would file for workers' compensation. He's built for Boston. Power, swagger, and just the right amount of chaos to survive here. But of course, we're the Red Sox, so we'll probably check in. Remember, we are the interest kings. Offer him a 4-year, $80 million deal and a Dunkin' refillable coffee card. And X done when he goes for 190 to Seattle or somewhere else. So, my question to you, Nick, do you want Pete Alonso? And if you do, what do you offer him? What does that contract look like?
I was gonna bring Pete Alonso up in that Kyle Schwarber segment that we just did, and I'm glad that this is the next topic up, because the other reason why Kyle Schwarber would be a little bit redundant to this team because of the logjam is Kyle Schwarber's a left-handed bat, power bat. Not taking that away from him. Home runs galore you'll have. Like you said, Jim, he'll strike out 200 times. He'll hit 35 to 40 home runs, maybe more, depending upon what it is. You are too left-handed heavy, consisting of Roman Anthony, whatever you do with Duran, Wilyer Abreu, Marcel Meyer, Nick Sogar. He's a switch guy, but still, it's another name. Tristan Casas, figuring out whatever you do with him. You have too many left-handed guys. This team has missed a right-handed thumper in their lineup since JD Martinez. Pete Alonso to me screams JD Martinez again here. A professional major league guy who hits home runs, quality guy that can go up and give you a quality at bat each time up there. Been doing it for a long time now. We have not had a solid first baseman in our lineup since Mitch Moreland. We
And
have
he's
not.
al and he's also doing it in a, in an
A
area
pitcher
right
for
now.
I
He's
was gonna
doing
say
it
a
in the
pitcher-friendly park in Citi Field with the Mets too.
right, but he's doing it in front of tough crowds, so he can handle the market.
He can. And the other thing I was gonna say too on him is that this would be going back to the 2012 offseason into 13. Pete Alonso would be a way better Mike Napoli type for this team.
Mhm,
A way better guy.
mhm.
A guy that can be there. count on him, build around him, and finally have a 3 or 4 hitter that I can sit there and watch and know that at least something quality can get done. I know there's Mets fans that criticize him and wish he was better and so on and so forth. I'm from the camp where I think a change of scenery for Pete Alonso will do him a world of good. I really do. And I would do whatever it takes to bring him here. The Mets are done with him. It's going to just come down to now dollars and value. What worries me is that the Red Sox love to be the penny pinchers themselves. What will they offer? They'll probably want to do a one a now I'm not going to say one because that would just be ridiculous like they did for Bregman last offseason. I think they're going to be in a 2 or 3 year higher overall money value, defer it as well, and hope and pray that he signs here. They aren't going to go out and do big deals here. They aren't. I think the more we realize this as fans, the better it will be on all of you during this offseason. If you're expecting them to go and do a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million, 10 years, 200, 3, $400 million deals to some of these players, you are out of your mind. Go get rehab and therapy with yourself. It is not happening.
Here's a couple other statistics just to kind of chew on with Pete Alonso. So he's been an All-Star the last 4 seasons in a row. The number of games he's played, starting in 2022, 160, 154, 162, 162. So he's a guy that, for his position and for his size and everything, stays pretty healthy. The other part is that his 2025 season, arguably, and he's had higher home run seasons, but arguably has been his best offensive season. He had his highest career batting average, his highest average of any of his prior 7 seasons at 272. He had a highest OPS of any season, highest OPS plus. He had 41 doubles and he had 38 home runs and 126 RBIs. So, I mean, if you're going to get 40 doubles and 40 home runs out of this guy, you know, again, I love Schwarber. I love the story. But if you're going to give him 150, give 150 to Pete Alonso. He solves a problem you have, a current problem you have. If you want to tell me that you're going to get Alonso and you're going to get a number 2 starter and a bullpen piece and you're going to do 5, 6, 7 things and then you're going to do Schwarber, I'm sitting with a cigar. But it's not going to happen. It's not reality. So we just need to move on from the Schwarber thing, go after Alonso and give him the money. He also fits that description, Nick, of what you just said. He's a guy that's probably not going to get an 8, 9, or 10-year deal. He's already 30. He's a perfect candidate for a 5-year season. Takes him to 35. I think that's where the Red Sox would sit comfortably. And frankly, I would too. I don't really want guys more than 5 years because their dynamics change and usually they don't get better with age, they get worse. So I'd be happy getting him for his 31 to 36 year uh, lifespan and take it from there.
Yeah, I just don't know if any team in baseball right now with that CBA looming for the lockout for 2027. I don't know if anybody's going to go crazy this offseason with these lucrative long-term deals. I just don't. I think we're going to see some of these deals on the short term, but sky high, 1 year, 40 million, 1 year, 45 million, 30 million, something like that. I could see something like that happen where they take the short term versus the long term here. And I'm cool with whatever they want to do with Alonso, but please, for the love of God, do not shortchange this guy. Bring something that fans can cheer about to Fenway Park. I'm so tired of it. Bring him here.
Alonso is my number 2 Christmas wish.
Okay.
We'll get to number 1 in just a moment. But
Sure.
before we get to number 1, I want to touch on Munitaka Murakami. So Munitaka Murakami out of Japan. Now, this is what you call a wild card. 25 years old, legit power, but
Mhm,
there's chatter that he fades late in games and struggles with fastballs over 93 miles an hour. Half
mhm.
the league throws 98. He's got pop for days. He hit 56 home runs in 2022. He's got a career
Congrats.
he's got a career slash line of 270, 394, 557 in the Nippon Japanese League, but
Mhm,
his whiff rate is ballooned since then. Scouts say high velocity and late inning stuff chew him up. Well, that's not impressive. Classic Red Sox move, sign the international sensation for 8 years and spend 2 adjusting his approach. Because as we know, Yoshida's still getting acclimated to the United States.
mhm.
Bregman walks, you can already picture Breslow saying we've replaced his production with a global superstar, while half of the fan base nods along because they watch one highlight reel on YouTube. Nick, I'm going to be as candid and as simple on this as I possibly can. I'm not interested.
Hell nah.
Yeah. It really is that
Pass.
it's really that simple. It really is. I don't want Yoshida 2.0. And that's and I don't want a guy
He
that
won't even be Yoshida.
no,
He won't. He's
no,
a
because
poor man's Yoshida.
'cause
No thanks.
he'll strike out too much. That's the biggest concern.
We've
Um,
learned our lesson. Move on. All set. Done.
sign with the Yankees, hit 80 home
Uh,
runs this year.
the
I'll
Do
live
the
with the
Dodgers,
Alonso.
he's probably Shohei Ohtani's best friend. He'll play for
Yeah,
the Dodgers somewhere.
more
I'm all
than
set.
likely. More than
We'll d
likely.
move along. Yep.
The last but not least, my Christmas ornament would be Tarek Scoubel. According to Peter Abraham, Nick, of the Boston Globe, Scoobel is a very much on the trade market, and the Red Sox are being penciled in as a possible suitor. Abraham notes it starts with Peyton Tolley and could include Jarren Duran. As the fastest I could read that is the fastest I was starting to cry with tears of joy. Scooble's recent numbers are absurd. 31 starts last season, a 2.21 ERA, and a whip of .89. But, and of course, there's always a but, he hits free agency after 2026, and his agent is your best friend, Scott Boras. So a lot to unpack there. But, Nick, there's no denying that if they went out and did that, and we talked about it last time with Thayer, you are talking the best 1 and 2 pitching tandem in probably the last 30 years of baseball.
Yeah, since Pedro and Schilling from 2004. My truck was is gassed up. It's gassed up. I'll drive right now to Detroit. I don't care. I'll close my stores. I'll close my business. I'll do anything it takes. I'll even give him Conley early. I'll put him in the deal too. Bring him here. And if it's 1 year, I'm fine with it because Jim, we talked about this off air. That's fine. You can get a draft pick or something if he doesn't stay here. You have protection at least from that. Who's also to say that he wouldn't love being here in Boston, being with Garrett Crochet and being a 1-2, probably best rotation in baseball if it went down that way.
Mhm.
Maybe he actually would love to be here and would love to sign long term. Who's to say that's not true? We don't know that.
No, we
But
don't.
if that's what it would take, Tolley, Duran, Early, I'll throw password together. I don't care. Give me a 1-2 dominant pair in my rotation, and I'm cool.
So what we talked about a little bit off air, I want to kind of just bring up because it was some important stuff that we did say, and I'll just paraphrase most of it. To your point, because we had talked about it, people are concerned. Red Sox Twitter's concerned. Oh, you're going to give all that up for 1 year of Scoobel. Well, ideally, you're going to go into this to try to sign him to a long term deal. I mean, it's just no different than the Crochet situation. You're going to try to do that. If you cannot come to terms with him, to your point, you are having a little bit of protection because whatever prospect capital you give up for Tarek Scoubel, you would be able to re-enter into the market by giving him the qualifying offer and getting a draft pick. So there is some consolation prize there. Let's not forget that. But the other part of this is having them as a 1-2 puts you, as I said, the best start of rotation of any in baseball and can go up against anybody in a short series that is just dominant. If I'm the Detroit Tigers, and this is my point, the Detroit Tigers have an interesting question to answer this offseason, and it involves a couple things. Number one, are you a contender for 2026? And is Tarek Scoubel part of your future? Because if you answer no to both of them, this is the best opportunity for the Detroit Tigers to move on from him than at any point moving forward. So what I mean by that is that the second option would be to move him at the 26 trade deadline. The problem with that is the acquiring team only gets him for 2 months. They go in knowing as a rental. They're not gonna be able to sign him to an extension in that 2-month period of time. It's just probably not enough logistic time, and you're not getting the qualifying offer as the receiving team. You have to have the player for an entire season, which makes it so much stronger for them to trade him now so that the receiving team can get that qualifying offer. You're also in the offseason right now where there's a lot more time to kind of kick the tires on the different players that may need to be involved in a trade, very similar to the Crochet deal. I'm sure there was a lot of talk involved in who was going and who wasn't and who they wanted, the White Sox and so forth. Also, too, make no mistake, if Detroit turns around and says, "Well, we wanna move him because we know we can't sign him, but we don't wanna just wave the white flag," well, I have no problem including Brian Bayo in a deal for him as well. Brian Bayo is a number 3, number 4 starter. Let him be a number 2 starter on the Detroit Tigers. They have a couple other arms there that are still good. He can slot in. He's a major league caliber pitcher. He averages 10 to 15 wins per season and an ERA under 4. If you have to give up a little to get a little bit, I don't care. He's also in a contract that's pretty reasonable. I think the Detroit Tigers might look at that and say, "You know what? That's not a bad consolation prize."
The only thing that I worry on Detroit's end, if they look at that consolation prize being Bayo, is that they already took a gamble when they took Eduardo Rodriguez in free agency, and they knew that that blew up in their face. So I would only hope that they'd be more optimistic and understanding that this would be a different scenario here. It's not gonna be an Eduardo Rodriguez.
Well, I
Who
think it
knows
would
what Bayo
I
who
think it
knows
would
what Bayo would do in Detroit? But I think, for me, I have to look at that in hindsight because he was a disaster in Detroit, being Eduardo Rodriguez.
Well, he also was a free agent signing that they went after. This would be in a trade, so,
Yeah.
hopefully it would be a different scenario, but, if Detroit says to themselves, "We're not blowing this up 100% right now," this is an opportunity for them to get something of value back, and I'm talking including Bayo, another piece, and let's say it's Connolly early. I have no problem with that at all.
Yep.
This way here, you're Detroit and you say, all right, I'm getting a major league caliber pitcher that I'm going to put in my rotation as my number 2 or number 3 starter. I could put early in the minors, let him cook a little bit, come up during the season, or I could start him as a number 5 guy, and they probably will be okay. Meanwhile, you as the Red Sox are going to have the best number 1 and number 2 guy in the history of in the last 30 years.
Well, the other thing that you have to look at too for Detroit's end is that if you just let Tarek Struble walk come 2026, it's one pick, it's one
Right.
person versus a package deal that could end up giving them a whole lot more in the short term here. So if I'm Detroit, I don't know why I would not do anything and just let him sit there and say, "Oh, we're just gonna let you go," even if they end up having a good season or whatnot. That would be a really bad move on their organization if they're trying to rebuild.
And the third angle to this that I'll present to everybody is let's say, for example, that you do trade for him and you get him here. And let's say it was Bayo and early or Bayo and the passer, whatever it might be. And if you can't come to terms with him, we already talked about the fact they can get a qualifying offer. All right, it is a lottery pick. If the Red Sox, for some strange reason, are not in playoff contention at the All-Star break, excuse me, at the July 31 deadline, they could trade him. They could move on from him and try to get a boatload in return.
Mhm.
Theo Epstein was a genius because at the time when he was here, you could trade for guys that would then turn out to be free agents, and you would get a pick if they got picked up by another team. He did that with a couple relievers. And he would constantly redraw back into that draft pool.
Yep.
They changed the rules on that, obviously. But at that time, it was very popular. And, he kind of like was able to kind of finagle that a little bit.
Jim, do
Um,
you have a 1B in case something doesn't go down with Tarek Struble?
Well, I would think it would have to
I
be
do.
yeah, I think it would have to be Joe Ryan, and,
Yeah,
there are a couple other things. Freddie Peralta, I think, from Milwaukee's potentially, stated that he
yep.
might be available and things like that. He's kinda down on my list a little bit. And then there's, some chatter from some of the guys on the Reds. Hunter Green is a
Hunter
name.
Green, yeah, I heard that name too.
He's
I don't
been
that doesn't move the needle for me.
yeah, no, I don't either.
Sandy
Just
Alcantara from Miami, none of that
I
does. I
I
think there is legs. I do legitimately think there's legs in the whole Joe Ryan piece. I
I do
think that
too.
I think there was more of a conversational piece between the Twins and the Red Sox that said, "We'll talk in the offseason to figure out something that would go
I
down."
think so too. I think so too. I think there was a lot that was discussed there, and I think there was really a good chance that, um, Breslow was gonna acquire Joe Ryan at that deadline, and there was just some tangibles that couldn't get it done. He had to parlay onto, you know, Dustin May, but I think you're right. I think there was some closing discussion that said, "We'll talk in the offseason," because it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Twins to blow up like they did, but still wanna retain Joe Ryan in all this.
I see a couple comments going back and forth
Yep,
in
it's
this,
gonna
and
start that.
I see this guy Cal who just said that that was a bad take on Green. I just worry when you go to a from a small market club, being the Cincinnati Reds, and I'm not taking away what they did with Cincinnati. Terry Francona's crew. Francona has a chance to be a manager of the year type. That's how surprising that was over there. I just don't wanna insert a guy into the AL East, into this tough stress environment here without knowing firsthand what they can do,
Mhm.
without more of a proven track record. I'm not taking anything away from Green. Great season, did a great job. Again, cheap contract, has potential. I'm not taking that away. It's the fact of the matter that I need a little bit more in the arsenal to say that he's gonna be my number 2. I can't say that truthfully right now, that if Green was traded for right now, I'd feel confident that he's my absolute stud number 2 guy. I can't say that right now. Could he? Sure. But I need to go after a commodity here. That's Joe Ryan and your Tarek Struble. You need to put your eggs in those baskets right now for that.
Yep.
And that's why I want to make sure that that point was coming across here. So I'm sorry if you didn't like it, but that's where I stand on my take.
Well, we'll definitely see how it pans out. I mean, obviously, we've got the winter. Is it the winter meetings or the GM meetings are going on? Right, it's the GM meetings, right?
GMs, winter
Um,
meetings happen after Thanksgiving. I think it's
right.
the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah. So we'll see. If anybody else has any other questions or anything that are in the chat, feel free. We'll be on for a couple more minutes before we wrap up. But I'd like to thank everybody first that has been on with us. Thank Nick for being on with me tonight. Nick, any other closing statements or any other things that you've been seeing for news that may need to be brought up?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me in the past couple days from my takeaway again is the transparency that we're seeing with Breslow. We're
Hmm.
seeing a different approach so far that we've never seen from him. in the past 2 seasons. It's like a Dombrowski-esque approach. He's coming out stating the needs. He said we need a middle of the order bat. We need a number 2 guy. We're not going after 4 or 5 starters. Connor Wong is my backup catcher. Story is my shortstop. We haven't seen brutal honesty and an understanding of what this team is actually gonna do since the Dombrowski era. This never happened with Bloom. This has never happened with Breslow. So maybe, just maybe, this organization is finally learning on how to handle PR and put your money where your mouth is, because there's a lot banking on this offseason. They don't want to waste Crochet as an ace and not give him somebody else to have as a piggyback option in the rotation. We already saw what this team has potential wise for your youth development with your Roman Anthony's, your Myers, uh, your Conley Earlys, your Tolleys. You see the youth development here. Now you need to replenish this team and give them some star power. And now you can be a World Series caliber team. I'm sure the rest of the league is sick and tired of the Dodgers. I'm sure they are. You need to take them down. So, John Henry, if you're watching, which I know you're not, please, for the love of God, give Breslow the authority to go and do whatever it takes this offseason to make your club better.
Look, you brought up some good points, and I think at the end of the day, a guy like Craig Breslow, who was a former player, um, he wants to go out and put a World Series championship. Who doesn't?
You
If
think?
you're gonna be a GM or the president of baseball operations for any major league team, you want the best guys. So there's definitely that argument that needs to be had between him and John Henry and Tom Werner and that other clown that they have there that you never hear of. The problem here is that if they've been told no, and maybe it was Bloom, maybe it wasn't. I mean, he did some stupid moves, but my point I'm saying is that you brought up a good point with Dombrowski. I've been saying it for years. Essentially, from the day he got hired, he said we need to go out and get a number one ace pitcher, and he threw 200 and some odd $1 million at David Price. In the same breath, he said we need to get a lights out closer, most likely by a trade. And like in the same breath, he went and traded for
Or
um,
Kimbrel,
Craig
Kimbrel.
Kimbrel. So it sounds good when you say it, but he backed everything up.
Mhm.
And so this all sounds good too, Nick, what we've been seeing the last 24 hours. It sounds good. It's what every Red Sox fan wants to hear.
Yep.
But you know what? Shit or get off the pot. You know, that's
We've heard a
that's
lot of this.
There's a lot of talk, you know,
Do it.
money talks, bullshit walks, and they've gotta be able to do it. And the other part of it is this: I sure hope that he doesn't have egg on his face by saying these comments and then turning around and not doing any of it, or saying, "Oh, we were so close." So, I'm hoping, in all honesty, that some conversation has happened between ownership and management. And whether it's letting Bregman go and saying, "C'est la vie, we don't need you for 40 million, and we're gonna allocate those funds elsewhere," I'm fine with it if you're gonna go out and get stud guys, because
Yep.
you brought up the Dodgers, and you brought up the fact that people are tired of them. This is what I'll tell you about the Dodgers. They win because they draft, develop, sign, and spend money, period.
100%. They're the
And
model
for
franchise of baseball right now.
And for everybody on Twitter that's ever come after me over the course of time saying, "Well, it takes time to build." You can do both.
Mhm.
You don't just well, you can't keep just signing, all the free agents. Never said that, but you can do both. You can do both. You can draft, develop, sign, and get free agents. Um, Theo Epstein said it really best. He said, "We'll draft and develop position players, we'll sign pitchers or trade for them." And that was mostly what he did in his tenure. So,
Well, one of the best things that happened was the Dodgers winning again, because now it proves to the rest of baseball,
here's
when
our
you
point.
spend, you're gonna win.
Yeah.
Spend,
If
develop, get everything the best.
Yep.
and you win.
Again, Nick, I hate to say we told them so, but we told them so because we've been on this train, there too, Nick, Diamond, we've been all been on this train that, if the Dodgers didn't win, then people will say, "Oh, you spent all that money. See, it didn't work." No, it worked. And,
Yep.
there may have been some guys that didn't pull their weight. I mean, Mookie didn't have the greatest postseason, but you know what? When you go out and you have that kind of mindset, that the Dodgers of today remind me of the 2000s Red Sox, the 04-07 team. They went out and they did what needed to be done, and it was
Yep.
bulldozing,
It's a good
and
point.
they could do it again. And you know, if it's all about the money, Henry's not a stupid guy. He knows that if he gets more people involved, more advertising, more people spending times at the four corners that are being built in Fenway Park and around the area, more into the restaurants and so forth, it can happen.
And
It's just
how telling it was Yamamoto on the mound to end the World Series.
of
How
course.
telling is that?
Yep, and again, a guy that was, in the 23 off season, I think it was, that, we were giddy and people were like we were doing Twitter Spaces and stuff, and people were like, "Oh my
Look, he's
god,
got
can we get him? Can we get him? Can we get him?" And, it really was gonna boil down to either the Dodgers or the Yankees, and it wound up being the Dodgers because why? They spent $700,000,000 the prior year on Shohei Ohtani. So
Mhm.
this is what happens, and there was a report out that the Dodgers made over 700. They got all their money back from Shohei, and they haven't even spent it all on him yet because of his deferments. So when
Mhm.
you get these big guys, they'll make you money, endorsements, whatever, ticket sales, asses in seats is what I call it. And those are the guys that will make you the money that you need. And, they just got to go out and get it. So, Tarek Scoubel, number one, Pete Alonso's number two. Who are your top two? And then we'll close for tonight.
Do I want a copy?
It's fine. It's reality.
I'm gonna go I still think Tarek Struble is more of a wishful thing. I want it to happen, believe it or not. I'm actually gonna go kind of a safer route. I wanna go Pete Alonso as my 1 and Joe Ryan as my 2,
Still
just to
good
play it
choices.
safe, just
They're
to
still
play
good.
it safe. My wild card, and we didn't talk about it, is if the Diamondbacks are really interested in trading Kento Marte,
Kill 'em, I'll
I
tell
am
you.
very, very, very interested in that. Very
Yeah.
much so.
Well, you bring up a good point. We talk about this on our situation room last night, for a few minutes, and I think it bears just a couple minutes. I don't know if I have his name spelled right, but just really fast.
EO,
Um, you
EO.
know, yeah, Um, so the bottom line here is that he's a second baseman. He's an all-star. He would fit
He
the
is
bill
the
too.
best. He is the best second baseman in baseball.
Yeah, and we talked about how second base has been a revolving door for a number of years. He solves that problem too.
Oh,
So
does he ever. Yep.
you can go out if Story's gonna stay at short, get Alonso, trade for Marte, have, Story at short, and then if you wanna put Meyer at third, fine.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
a
that I'd be fine with that. If I would if for me, I would entertain more of Ketel Marte right now than I would of another return of Bregman.
Oh, I agree with that because it's gonna be cheaper in the long run, in the short run. You're not giving him 40,000,000 a year, you're inheriting his contract. I don't even know what his contract is, just real briefly. Let's see. His contract is I can't find here we go, here he is.
Looks like he was 6 years, 116,000,000 roughly, in
He's a
2026.
Okay, he's signed through 2030, so you got the 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 season. He's got 6 years left, and there's a player option on his on for the 2031. So this is a guy you're gonna have for a long time.
Yep.
He's 32 years old. It's still pretty good. Um, and again, 28 home runs, 283 batting average this year, an OPS of 893. I'll put that into my
Surprising that the Diamondbacks would wanna move on from him.
Well, if they are in a rebuild and they wanna cut money, it makes sense. They did make some moves at the deadline, to, trade off some of their pieces. It might be time. I think maybe they didn't expect to be as close to being a playoff team at the end of the year than they were in July because they obviously got rid of Suarez and a couple other, pieces, but, it was probably a surprise for them more than anything, but I think their window is closing, and they may wanna start moving on, and, obviously, the first thing happens when you're gonna start moving on is to try to get rid of high-priced players, and
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, that contract is peanuts for the Red Sox, and it would do us good. Do you imagine having a 40-run home run first baseman, a 25 to 30 home run second baseman, a 20 to 25 home run shortstop? I'll take that.
That would just be gravy. I mean, that would be the best Christmas ever right there if that happened.
Yeah, and, the other part of it is he's a switch hitter, so you're gonna get that right-handed bat.
Mhm.
That wraps it up for tonight. I'd like to thank Nick again and everybody else that was online. Definitely go and check us out at RedSoxDigest.com. During the season, we write articles based on the games from the night before. It's been a little bit slow right now because obviously nothing's happening, but get yourself a membership and we will see you on our next show when something big goes down. Have a good night and take care.